Welcome into another edition of Ringside Review. I am Ethan Christodoulou and joined alongside Jason Unpresser. He is a Nessun.com writer. You can catch all of his work on Nessun.com, of course, where he's written about WWE. He's done exclusives with some independent wrestlers. We've got a lot to get into. Fourth edition of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. Jason, how you doing today?
Doing well, Ethan. Very exciting time in wrestling. Royal Rumble coming up, WrestleMania season just kicking off. It's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan.
Oh, absolutely. And the hype is real. Show's going to be in Indianapolis, stadium-sized event once again. I'm a big fan of them doing this for the Big Four pay-per-views, and I'm glad that it's kind of the direction they're going here. Royal Rumble is one of those where anything can happen, and I think WWE's done a really good job as of late, putting us in a situation where, 2 weeks ago, I'm talking, I think the favorite is kind of out there and pretty obvious. And after last night's Raw, it can kind of go anywhere. But before we get into the big picture of the Royal Rumble, let's just kind of real quick take a look at Monday Night Raw as a whole. Takeaways, things that you really enjoyed. I think something that really stood out to me, which is fairly notable for the WWE fan base, Logan Paul. He made his return last night, which means, obviously, and he's come out and said this too, the McGregor fight is not happening. It sounded like trying to leverage that fight and the money he could make for it towards WWE. That's not happening anymore, and I guess it means he's going to be a full-time wrestler like he said a few months back. Also, it sounds like he's going to be fighting his own brother. He tweeted out that he and Jake Paul are now going to be facing off on HBO's. Is it still HBO Max? They might just go by Max now. I don't know. Too many streaming services. But they're going head-to-head now, and this is not a direction I thought we were going to see, but I'm assuming, and I'm sure you could agree with me on this, we're probably going to get promotion for that with Logan Paul being in WWE now full-time.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I would not be surprised with Logan Paul. Like you said, he's probably now a full-time wrestler now. Just having Jake Paul probably at another wrestler's side, depending on who he's feuding with in the future. As you said, a lot of teases on last night's Raw on Monday night. And so just a lot of things can happen with Jake Paul just, trying to antagonize his brother, trying to hype up this mega fights that it's probably going to be as the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight was.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate thing for WWE fans is, while I do respect what Logan Paul has done, and I've actually, this is like almost an embarrassing thing to admit, it feels sometimes. I enjoy his in-ring work and what he's done as a heel in the business, but now it feels like we might be crossing the border of too much now, where I would assume that this eventually leads to Jake Paul getting involved, and if there isn't promotion for this being just shoehorned into either Monday Night Raws or events leading up to that eventual match on March 27th, I will eat my shoe, because I feel like that's the direction we're going with that. Another thing that I think really stood out to me, and this is a conversation that will also lead to something else later, CM Punk, Paul Heyman, and Drew McIntyre having a little bit of a squabble after Paul Heyman revealed the cover for WWE 2K25. Drew McIntyre comes out, they go back and forth a bit, but he alludes to the favor that Paul Heyman now owes CM Punk for joining Team Roman Reigns and helping end the bloodline a few months back. Where are we going with this? Does this feel like we're going to get a Paul Heyman has to side with CM Punk? What is this direction heading into?
Yeah, I think it definitely could lead to something like that. I mean, as you might remember, the Survivor Series match, there's kind of a little tension, Roman Reigns and CM Punk going on in the little shark cage that they had going on there, with Roman started directing traffic and Punk, just being Punk himself. And, there's been some other, things going on with their history over the years with, Reigns and Punk going at it through social media, through their media reports. And so there's definitely a lot of history between these guys. I could definitely see something along the lines of one or the other getting each other's way of a world title match in the future, perhaps.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see that card being pulled by Punk at some point. If maybe it's even further down the line than we realize, and WWE is just trying to tease it now for the build up to the Rumble, I would assume Punk's going to ask him to be in his corner for some eventual future world title match between the two, which means that Roman might have to win the Rumble and take the belt off Cody to get us there, or in some capacity, something like that has to happen with Roman winning it all, but I wouldn't see him pulling the card. But on the note of WWE 2K25, whether you feel good about the game or not, or the game's progression, I know wrestling fans all have their opinions here. Thoughts on the cover? Do you like it between the regular edition with Roman Reigns on it, Undertaker Deadman edition, Bloodline edition? Just any thoughts, takeaways? Do you like it? Do you dislike the art?
I mean, it's fine. It is what it is. I mean, the Bloodline cover, I think it's kind of good for Tama Tonga, Jacob Fatu. They haven't really been in the company for only like a few months, basically, and they're already on the cover of a video game, and so good for their progression. I know from Saturday night's main event, they really are high on Jacob Fatu, and so this obviously could lead to something a bit more in terms of just building up his star power, and so I think that's probably more for him than I guess Roman Reigns himself.
Yeah, I will say I am a sucker for all things Undertaker. I've talked on the show before. I am an Undertaker fan, diehard. That was the guy that got me into wrestling. I have been telling friends and anyone that'll listen, I'm not buying this game this year on launch. I've been dying on that hill for a while now. And then you get a cover like this. And I don't even buy the physical games anymore. But here I am telling myself, Ethan, you can't go back on your word. You can't go back on your word. I hope I'm not a sucker and I don't cave. I'm trying to hide my own credit card from myself to keep me from just going ahead and buying it. But, I mean, the covers are the cover. What matters is the meat and potatoes in the game. The gameplay itself, it's been clunky. Hopefully it shows some improvement, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Now, pivoting off the game, there was a spot last night that we have to get into because, A, talk about an impact, but B, I cannot believe JD McDonough finished the match last night. And when it started coming out after the fact that when he made it back to Gorilla, he passed out or collapsed, probably passed out. I wouldn't be surprised once the adrenaline finally came down. Broken ribs, a punctured lung. He let everyone know on social media himself after missing that moonsault into the commentary table. I mean, you even heard Michael Cole. There was a moment there where you could hear the concern in his voice where he, word for word, is, no, seriously, guys, we need somebody to come out here and check on JD McDonough. I mean, tough. Talk about toughness.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of the wrestling business, the toughness. And it's kind of funny, too, in a weird way, because JD McDonough is kind of joked as like a mini Finn Balor. Finn Balor himself, he's went through a lot of injuries. And, that Hell in a Cell match at Mania, he even finished that match through getting multiple stitches. And so it's kind of, a weird, ironic twist there that JD McDonough is also going through this as well as, the sort of mini Finn Balor, as he's joked as.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's funny because he gets ragged on for being such a small guy and also having, a larger head for his body and it being kind of awkward. But this is one of those things that he's going to be gone for a couple of months, it sounds. At this point, he comes back to a hero's welcome. I almost feel like this turns into a face turn because you don't survive a bump like that. And I feel like survive is a fitting word considering how brutal that was. And then on top of that, finishing the match to the very end. And you could tell he was hurt. So major credit to him. Well-earned, well-deserved couple of months off after that. Hopefully he comes back better than ever. But I feel like Heroes Welcome is probably in his future. Am I wrong?
I wouldn't be surprised, especially because, like, the Judgment Day, they've kind of just been, I guess, like running through water or whatever that expression is.
They're almost like in a limbo now. They've broken up and reset themselves.
Yeah, right. Especially with the Damian Priest Finn Balor feud, that's kind of over now. And so Liv Morgan, she's around, but then she's kind of separated from whatever Finn Balor and everyone else has got going on. Even Carlito, you saw him with a cast on his hand. He's hurt as well. Dominic, he's kind of just run his course. And so I think eventually you're gonna have to push somebody. I think they're kind of done with Finn Balor, and so JD McDonough, he could be in for a big push when he comes back.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we can't talk wrestling without getting into what was, I will say, the highlight of the Netflix era. Yes, we're only 4 shows in at this point, but in my eyes, highlight of the next Netflix era, but also one of the best just promo segments I think we've gotten on a Monday Night Raw in some time. CM Punk, Cody Rhodes. And I don't know if this happened to you, but I actually got a commercial, it was like 3 minutes worth of ads right after McIntyre and Zayn wrapped up. So I thought the show was kind of over, and I was like, what? I was like, because it was weird. It was in the middle of Michael Cole speaking too, so it was like an odd interruption. That's the one weird thing with Netflix commercials right now. The commercials sometimes just pop in weird ways. But we come back. Cody's in the room, in the middle of the ring. I think he's like already talking. This is for me. I don't know if anyone else experienced this, but that was what happened to me. Now, we get them in there face to face. You can hear a pin drop in the arena, and magic is being made on the mic when there's not a soul saying a word in the arena and everyone's just listening. And the story is being told. You have CM Punk. These are the 2 final men in the Royal Rumble last year, mind you. Longtime friends. CM Punk's alluding to all of that history. He made it very clear he's going to be gunning for Cody Rhodes should he win the Rumble. And then Cody Rhodes making it abundantly clear that he wants it to be him. And I love the two quotes that came out of this, with CM Punk basically saying, I'm not going to stab you in the back, I'm going to stab you in the front. Not verbatim like that, but basically what he was saying. And then Cody turning around and going, he would love the opportunity to basically show the best in the world that he is no longer the best in the world, and see that look on his face. CM Punk and Cody's the money match at Mania now. Am I wrong?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Like, this is probably, outside of Roman Reigns, Cody and CM Punk are your two biggest stars in your company, and you'd be mistaken not to have a match with these two guys, especially with like you said, the history that they have, just the journeys they've been on, with their runs in AEW, going to WWE now, and just having them cross paths on the biggest stage possible. I think they even teased it before with Sami Zayn kind of teasing Punk about how he hasn't had a WrestleMania main event in his career, and doing that against Cody Rhodes, like, in that big of a stage and setting those stakes, like, that's exactly what you want as a WWE fan. And so I honestly be kind of shocked if they didn't go this direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and I alluded to this earlier. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about my Royal Rumble predictions. I mean, that promo basically threw it out the window. I was very gung-ho on it's going to be Roman Reigns. It sounds like Rock might not make it to Mania, or at least that's like what internet speculation has said, and it's very much up in the air right now. If it's not, you think, okay, logical, Cody, Roman 3, that's kind of the rubber match payoff between that massive 3-year-long rivalry at this point here, but I don't know. There was magic made in the arena during that conversation, and it's they have such similar, albeit in different ways, like parallel careers, in the sense that they both left WWE, not for the same reasons, don't get me wrong, not for the same reasons, but both having left WWE, doing different things. Cody obviously continuing wrestling, Punk doing his own stuff outside of it, whether it's UFC, comic book writing, whatever it was that he was doing during that time away, but both leaving, coming back. Cody obviously establishing AEW, Punk being a part of AEW, and then ultimately finding their way back into the WWE. You have so much storytelling, so much put into this match, and it was literally through a single promo. Two friends that are showing clear respect for one another, and I don't really know. Outside of Cody and Roman, and at this point, having seen it twice already, and I guess the rubber match is the payoff of the rivalry at Mania, but I don't know if you can put together a bigger match than those two guys at this stage. The magic was there, and it almost feels, it's one of those things where, especially in wrestling, like when you see it, you know it's happening. And if they don't go this route, I'm a Punk fan, so selfishly, I would love to see this. I want him to get that main event, and the constant teasing he's getting from everyone, it's great. But if they don't go this route, I think I would be pretty devastated, Jason.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the only other big match they could do is probably John Cena against Cody Rhodes. But even then, I think Rhodes Punk is like the perfect compromise of, like you said, the storytelling of the promos, but also just the in-ring work that these guys can put on. Like, they've shown, like, throughout this past year, they can put on a very, very good matches in the ring to satisfy, that segment of the wrestling crowd. And even then, like, just having, like you said, just, it feels like the perfect moment, and wrestling to me is all about timing. Like, you need to find the right time for all these matches. It was the right time for Cody to win the title last year compared to the year before, and it's like, Punk, I'm also a big fan of Punk, but also he sometimes gets in his own way, sometimes with injuries and such as well, and so you never know what's going to happen with him. And so if you don't strike now, like, it could be too late if you're just trying to wait for next year, possibly, for a Rhodes Punk main event.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Rock situation is a perfect example of that. Like, yes, we missed out on it last year, and now it looks like it might not even be a possibility just because of his schedule and whatnot. You never know with WWE, but we'll see. I've got to say, though, Jason, this was a blast. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully we can keep doing this every week after Monday Night Raw and keep talking some wrestling with you all. But I'm Ethan Hursadulu, Jason Umpresser. Thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Ringside Review.